disaster draft. This rule's basically the NBA's nightmare scenario, but it's real. If a team loses 5 or more players in something catastrophic, like a plane crash or arena collapse, the disaster draft kicks in. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but the league's got to be ready for anything. Teams not affected are allowed to protect only 5 players, which forces them into tough decisions. Do they save the pricey veterans or gamble on young guys with potential? Either way, no team can lose more than 1 player, so they've got to play it smart. The disaster hit team gets to pick from the unprotected players, but they've got to build a roster under the salary cap. So big contracts basically stay safe since nobody's touching them. The best part, they lock down the #1 draft pick and keep their own, giving them 2 shots at landing a star. This whole thing got serious after the Minneapolis Lakers' terrifying near crash in 1960. They were stuck in a blizzard, running low on fuel, and somehow landed in a cornfield. After that scare, the league finally put real rules in place. They've looked at disasters in other sports too, like soccer and hockey, to shape the draft. Honestly, the disaster draft feels like something out of a movie, but it's the league making sure teams can bounce back. The teams left scrambling would probably end up with solid role players, young talent, and plenty of expiring contracts to stay flexible. Even though it's never been used, it's a wild reminder that the league's always thinking ahead. They're not leaving anything to chance, and having this draft in their back pocket proves they're serious about keeping the competition alive no matter what happens. 6th man rule. The story goes like this. If a team quietly slipped an extra guy in without refs noticing, and that player got involved in a scoring play before anyone caught it, the points would still count. Back in the old days, people believed this happened all the time, especially before the 1950s. There's no actual rule book that ever allowed this. Since the very start, basketball's always been 5 players on the floor for each team. Even way back in the 1940s, the league rulebook made it clear teams should only have 5 players, but the chaos of early basketball gave this legend some life. Games were way less organized back then, and refs sometimes missed players sneaking onto the court during sloppy substitutions. The original Celtics, not the Boston team, but the Barnstormers from the early 1900s, had a reputation for bending rules like crazy. People say they'd throw an extra defender out there during fast breaks, and with refs struggling to keep up, it sometimes worked. There were actual moments where teams ended up with 6 players without getting caught right away. In 1947, the Toronto Huskies had 6 guys defending a huge possession, and refs missed it until the play ended. In 1951, the New York Knicks got caught in a photo with 6 defenders, but no whistle came in time. Nowadays, this would never fly. With 3 refs, official scorers, instant replay, and strict bench rules, it's basically impossible. The term 6th man stuck around though, but now it just means the best player off the bench, not some sneaky extra guy trying to score. Bouncy shoes. Back in 2010, the NBA actually banned a pair of shoes because they gave players an edge. The APL concept. Once sneakers had this wild load and launch technology using 8 springs under the ball of the foot and special foam called propylene to boost energy return. APL even claimed these shoes could raise your vertical by up to 3.5 inches. Tests showed people were actually getting around 1.5 inches higher on their jumps, which is no joke. The NBA stepped in fast, officially banning the shoes on October 19, 2010. They said the shoes gave an unfair advantage, which marked the first time the league banned shoes for performance, not looks. No player was allowed to wear them that season, and honestly, that move alone proved the shoes work. APL was created by twin brothers Adam and Ryan Goldston, who started the company in college. They had no design background, no big-time investors, and professors even laughed at their business plan, but they went all in. Dropped an ad in Slam magazine, and suddenly NBA players, agents, and even families started calling. Instead of hurting their brand, the band made APL explode. The shoes, priced at $300, sold out fast. Even NBA players under other contracts were buying them just to try them out. APL used the band to build hype and later pivoted toward luxury performance shoes. Since then, they've expanded big time. By 2014, they were making running shoes. And in 2020, they dropped 2 new basketball models with even crazier tech. APL proved controversy sell, and even today, they're a premium brand sold in places like Nordstrom, still riding that wild moment when their shoes were just too good for the NBA. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm gonna start posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, zone defense. Ban. The NBA spent over 50 years keeping zone defense completely off the table. Back in the 1940s, teams could play zones like in college, but it got out of hand fast. Games slowed down like crazy. Defenders were just standing around in areas, and the league hated it. They wanted exciting one-on-one battles, and worried zones would hide weaker defenders. So 3 months into the very first season, they banned zone defense entirely. From then on, defenders had to stick to their man no matter what. Double teams were only allowed when the offensive player had the ball. If a defender started guarding space instead of a player, it was called illegal defense. The penalty? A technical free throw, and the offense kept possession. That rule forced teams to play tight man-to-man, keeping things fast and isolations front and center. The league stuck with this for decades because they wanted stars to shine. Guys like Michael Jordan thrived in isolation-heavy systems, and zones might have slowed that down. The NBA feared zones would kill scoring, drain the pace, and just make the game flat-out boring. Everything changed in the 2001 season when the league finally scrapped illegal defense rules. They swapped them for the defensive 3-second rule, which made sure defenders could not just camp in the paint. Plus, they sped up backcourt violations and loosened up on defensive contact. That shift totally changed the game. Isolation plays dropped, hybrid defenses took over, and big guys had to adjust or get left behind. Suddenly, stretch bigs and versatile defenders became gold. Teams like the 2011 Mavericks and the 2020 Heat use zone looks to slow down elite scorers. Even today, zones pop up in tight playoff moments, proving this rule change-made defenses way more creative. Bounce shot. This one's absolutely wild because yes, if a player launches the ball before the clock hits 0 and it bounces off the floor after the buzzer, it still counts. The league's rulebook makes it clear. As long as the shot leaves the player's hands in time, the bounce doesn't matter. Once the ball's in the air, the entire thing's considered one continuous play, even if it smacks the floor before dropping in. The timing's everything here. If the ball's not released before the buzzer, it's dead. But if it is, that bounce becomes part of the same shot. While the ball's falling before it bounces, normal goaltending rules still apply. After it bounces up though, defenders could actually go for the block since it's no longer on its downward path. There's never been a game-winning bounce-in buzzer beater in the NBA, but it's happened overseas. In 2009, during a European game, a player nailed a crazy three-quarter court shot that bounced and went in, and the officials got it right by counting it. For this to work, the shot needs a super shallow angle and low speed with forward spin to get the perfect bounce. Statistically, it's insanely rare, only happening about once every 75,000 attempts. Teams could even think about this as an option in desperate end-of-quarter situations, especially if a high arc gives them a better bounce chance. Defenders are stuck deciding whether to risk a goaltend or let the ball bounce and try to contest it after. The craziest part is that if the ball bounces inside the three-point line, it counts for 2, but if it bounces outside and goes in, that's a full 3 points. It's rare, but the NBA's rule keeps this wild shot alive. No shatter rule. The NBA made it crystal clear. If a player smashes the backboard, the basket does not count. Even if the ball already dropped clean through the hoop, the play's wiped out. The refs hit the player with a technical foul, but not the kind that gets him tossed after too many. It's a special technical, and the league pauses the game until they swap in a fresh backboard or move to the other basket. Back in the early days, glass backboards were fragile, and nobody really knew what to do when one exploded mid-game. Things got messy quick until the late 1970s, when Daryl Dawkins made breaking backboards his signature move. In 1979, he destroyed 2 backboards in only 3 weeks, forcing the league to get serious about making rules and fixing equipment. By 1981, they upgraded everything with breakaway rims and stronger laminated glass that flexes under pressure instead of shattering. Safety was the biggest concern since glass raining down's a nightmare for players. Plus, the league didn't want games getting delayed forever just because someone wanted to show off with a monster dunk. Players like Chuck Connors, way back in 1946, were early culprits. Dawkins took it to a new level, even naming his dunks things like Chocolate Thunder Flying. Shaq came along and kept the tradition alive, tearing down entire hoop structures and forcing even more reinforcements. These days, it's rare thanks to better rims, tougher glass, and strict rules about hanging on the rim. If it somehow happens outside of game action, like during warm-ups, there's no penalty, but they've still got fixed things. The NBA's not taking any chances, making sure raw power never stops the game cold. 6th, foul catastrophe rule. The NBA's got a rule for when a team runs out of players, and it's honestly one of the wildest things sitting in the rule book. If every player fouls out, gets ejected, or gets hurt, the refs do not end the game. Instead, they let the last guy who fouled out stay on the court. Or they can even bring back a player who fouled out earlier, but anyone tossed for a flagrant foul or 2 technicals is done for good. Now here's where it gets really brutal. Every foul by that player brings a triple penalty. First, it counts as their personal foul. Second, it counts as a team foul. And third, it slaps on a technical foul too. That means if they foul someone shooting a 2, it's 3 free throws. Foul on a 3-point shot, that's 4 free throws. Plus the other team keeps the ball. This rule's been sitting around since the league's early days when rosters were tiny. The league just wanted to stop teams from losing by default because they had no one left to play. It almost came up in 1997 when the Warriors lost 4 players to fouls and 3 to injuries. They barely finished with 5. Same thing happened to the Lakers in 2012 when foul trouble and ejections piled up, but they dodged disaster with their bench guy. College hoops handles this differently. If you run out of players, you play shorthanded. 4 on 5 with no technicals for extra fouls. The NBA, though, is way harsher, making teams pay every single time. If this rule ever kicks in, it's going to turn the game upside down. Coaches would scramble, free throws would pile up, and fans would lose their minds watching it unfold. Court dimensions. The NBA's changed the court plenty of times, and big men were the reason. Back in 1946, the lane was only 6 feet wide. Centers could just camp under the basket all game long. George Mikan completely took over because of that. Standing 6'10" and weighing 270 pounds, he bullied everyone in the paint. He led the Lakers to 5 championships in 6 years, and his go-to hook shots became automatic. So in 1951, the league widened the lane to 12 feet just to slow him down. It forced Mikan farther from the hoop, cut his rebounding edge, and gave other players more room to operate. But that was just the start. When Wilt Chamberlain came around, the league had to make another change. In 1964, they stretched the lane to 16 feet. Wilt was 7'1", ridiculously athletic, and once dropped 100 points in a single game. The league also banned offensive goaltending in 1966 because Wilt kept tipping in misses from right above the rim. Eventually, they even added the defensive 3-second rule to stop players from camping in the paint forever. Other court tweaks happened too. In 1979, the league added the 3-point line to spark more scoring. Then in 1997, they introduced the restricted area arc under the basket to cut down on charging calls during drives. All of these changes built today's game. Bigger lanes opened up space, made perimeter play way more important, and pushed the NBA toward positionless basketball. Mikan and Wilt proved that dominant players could reshape the entire court, and every adjustment since has kept the balance between star power and fair competition alive. High dribble. A lot of people think if a player dribbles the ball way up by their shoulders, or even higher, it's a violation. But that's just not true. In basketball, there's no rule saying how high the ball's allowed to bounce during a dribble. What actually matters is how the player controls it. The key thing is hand position. As long as the hand stays on top of the ball and never slips under it, the dribble's completely legal. If the player slides their hand underneath and flips it up, that's carrying, and refs will call it right away. Same goes if the ball comes to a stop in their hand, even for a split second, and then they continue dribbling. That's a dead giveaway for a violation. It might surprise people, but even if the ball pops up over the head, the dribble still counts as clean as long as the hand stays right on top and the ball keeps moving. The height itself does not matter at all. That said, high dribbles aren't the smartest move during a game. They make it way easier for defenders to poke the ball loose, and it's harder to control, especially if things are moving fast. Players usually keep dribbles low just to stay safe and sharp under pressure. Fun fact, way back in the early days, players were only allowed to bounce the ball once during a dribble. It wasn't until the 1910 season that continuous dribbling became legal, which totally changed the game forever. So next time someone claims a high dribble's illegal, they're wrong. As long as players follow those control rules, they're in the clear. Height's got nothing to do with it, and it's all about keeping the dribble smooth and under control. Jump ball mix-up. This rule's all about those rare moments when everybody forgets which way they're supposed to play. Right at tip-off, teams should be attacking the basket opposite their bench, and refs usually keep it clean. But every once in a while, confusion hits, and teams end up going the wrong direction. If a team scores on what's actually their own basket during this chaos, it's not immediately ruled wrong. The NBA rulebook gives officials 24 seconds to catch this mess. If they realize it in that window, they stop play, wipe out whatever just happened, and reset the game with teams facing the right direction. But if they miss it and the clock rolls past 24 seconds, they just let the game roll like everything's normal. Any points scored stay on the board, and teams switch sides at halftime to fix things. What makes this so interesting is how scoring works during the mix-up. If a team accidentally puts the ball in their own hoop because both squads are flipped, the points still count if that 24-second window closes. If it happens mid-game, after a quarter starts, there's no correction. Teams just finish the period going the wrong way, then switch back after the quarter ends. Refs try hard to prevent this, but mistakes happen, especially in games with messy court setups or shaky communication. Players might not even notice right away, since everything feels normal, until someone realizes they're scoring on themselves. Scorekeepers log points as they come, and unless the officials catch it quickly, the game just keeps flowing. No endless reviews, no erasing big plays, just basketball rolling along, even in the middle of a total directional disaster. It's rare, but when it happens, it's absolute chaos. Kickball and punchball. These two violations keep basketball true to its roots as a hands-only game. In the NBA, both fall under the same section of the rulebook, and they've got one big thing in common. Intent matters more than anything. If a player kicks the ball or punches it on purpose, refs will blow the whistle right away. But if the ball just accidentally bounces off someone's leg or fist, play keeps going like nothing happened. For a kickball, it's all about using any part of the leg to make a play on the ball. That means if a defender sticks out a knee, foot, or even shin to deflect a pass, it's a clear violation. But if a wild pass happens to hit a stationary player in the leg, no call. Refs judge intent by body movement and timing, so players need to be careful. Punchball works the same way. If a player swings a closed fist and punches the ball to disrupt a pass, it's a violation. Players almost never do this though, since punching the ball's super rare in live play. If the ball just brushes a fist accidentally during a block attempt or scramble, refs let it go. When the defense commits either violation, the offense keeps the ball and gets the shot clock reset to 14 seconds if there were fewer than 14 left. If the offense does it, the ball goes to the other team. These are violations, not fouls, so no free throws, and they don't count toward personal or team foul totals. The rules changed in 1999 to make things fairer for offenses. Before that, a defensive kick or punch did not reset the clock, and teams got punished for defenders stopping plays with their legs or fists. Now, it's all balanced. Handchecking. This rule totally changed how defense works in the NBA. Before, defenders could keep their hands on the ball handler's body to control them, slow them down, and throw off their rhythm, but now that's a foul, plain and simple. If a defender keeps a hand on a player's hip, waist, or back, it's getting called. Even more so if they try pushing or steering the offensive player. Two hands, that's an automatic whistle. The refs look for intent and impact. If the hand's on the ball or just brushes against the player without stopping their movement, it's fine. But if the contact sticks and messes with the player's flow, it's a foul every time. Since the 2004 season, the NBA's been strict about this, making sure players have freedom to move. The goal was simple: speed up the game and give offensive stars the chance to shine without defenders clinging to them. Before this crackdown, defenders could get away with hand-checking all game long. Guys like Michael Jordan faced constant physical defense, but still found ways to score. In the early 2000s, teams like the Pistons used light hand checks to throw off scorers like Kobe Bryant. But after the rule change, that style disappeared fast. Nowadays, defenders have to rely on footwork and positioning. Hand-checking's gone, and offenses have exploded. Players like Kyrie and Steph Curry thrive in this era, taking advantage of the space defenders are forced to give. Hand-check fouls count toward a player's limit, and if the team's in the bonus, they're giving away free throws. This shift pushed the game toward higher scoring and faster pace. Defenders adjusted, but offensive stars love it. Hand-checking's history proves how one rule can reshape the whole flow of the game. 10-second free throw rule. This one's all about keeping the game moving. In the NBA, once the ref hands the ball to the shooter, they've got exactly 10 seconds to let it fly. If they take longer, it's an automatic violation. On the first free throw, the attempt's completely lost, and the other team gets possession. If it happens on the second or third shot, just that single attempt is erased. The rule's there for pace and fairness. Nobody wants free throws, dragging the game into slow motion. It also stops players from milking the clock late in tight games. The countdown starts the moment the ball's at the shooter's disposal, not when they feel like getting into position. This is true across the league, with no exceptions for stars or role players. If the shooter beats the buzzer, they're fine. But if they push past that 10-second mark, refs can and will blow the whistle. That said, enforcement's been spotty over the years. It mostly comes into play when a shooter stretches their routine way too long. That's exactly where Giannis comes in. He's brought more attention to this rule than anyone. His free throw routine is famously slow, usually creeping past 11 seconds. Giannis says he's just focused and catching his breath, but he knows the risk. He's had violations called a few times, including in the 2024 season and during the 2021 playoff. Opponents and fans both love calling it out, counting loudly as he lines up his shot. But whether or not the crowd's counting, the ref's keeping track. The rule's all about balance. letting shooters stay in rhythm, but keeping the flow alive. When enforced, it's a reminder that even at the line, the clock never really stops. Mandatory timeout rule. This one's all about keeping the game flowing and the commercials rolling. Every NBA team gets 7 timeouts for the game, but here's the catch. They've got to actually use at least 4 of them during regulation. If a team tries to hoard their timeouts, the refs step in and call an automatic timeout for them. And if they still try to play stubborn, the refs tack on a technical foul too, giving the other team a free throw plus possession. There's more. The NBA also runs built-in TV timeouts that are separate from team timeouts. These hit at the first dead ball after 6:59 and 2:59 in every quarter. Even if both coaches forget, the refs will stop play for those, because the league's making sure those ad slots are filled. This rule exists mainly for the business side of things. The league makes billions off TV deals, and advertisers need predictable breaks. Without this, teams could slow the game to a crawl at the end or skip breaks entirely in blowouts. The rule keeps everything smooth for both the audience and the sponsors. When a team slips up, the refs enforce it fast. If they enter the fourth quarter without enough timeouts used, they've got to catch up quick. There have been moments where teams like the Warriors and Mavericks got caught short and had timeouts forced on them, plus a technical foul thrown in for good measure. Coaches usually play it safe by burning useless timeouts in the third just to stay clear. The official scorer tracks it all, and refs keep coaches warned throughout the game. At its core, this rule is a reminder that while basketball is the product, the business never stops. Double foul rule. This one's pretty rare, but it keeps the game fair when both players mess up at the same time. A double foul happens when 2 opponents commit personal fouls against each other almost simultaneously. It does not matter if the fouls are the same type. If the contact happens close enough together, refs call it a double foul. The penalty's pretty simple. No free throws at all. Play just picks up right where it left off, whether that's an inbound, a jump ball, or a team already holding possession. Both players still get charged with personal fouls, so it counts toward their total, but it does not count toward the team foul limit. There's one twist. If it happens when neither team has the ball, like during a loose ball scramble, the NBA goes with a jump ball to restart play. No team gets an advantage, keeping everything balanced. This rule's built to prevent chaos. If both players foul each other, it would feel wrong to reward one team with free throws. Instead, the game stays neutral and they move on. It also helps stop things from spiraling. Players know retaliating will not give their team anything extra, so it discourages extra shoving or cheap shots. You usually see double fouls in rebounding battles or tough drives to the rim. There was one in 2019 when Draymond Green and Montrezl Harrell tangled fighting for a rebound. Another happened in 2021 when LeBron James and Jay Crowder got caught up battling on a drive. Refs have to be sharp to spot these. If one foul clearly happens first, they'll call just that. But if it's close, they'll rule it a double foul. It's a clean way to handle messy moments without slowing the game down. Ejection rules. The NBA's clear about this. When a player's tossed, they've got to leave the court immediately, whether it's for throwing a punch, getting hit with 2 technical fouls, committing a flagrant foul too, or jumping into the stands. They're gone on the spot. Once ejected, players cannot hang around the bench or even the tunnel. They've got to head straight to the locker room or exit the building entirely. If they refuse, the league comes down hard. There are fines that can reach up to $50,000, and in extreme cases, it can even lead to a game forfeiture. The NBA does not play around with this stuff. If the ejected player was supposed to shoot free throws, the opposing coach picks a replacement from the bench. Also, the sub who comes in cannot take part in the next jump ball, just to keep everything fair and clean. Now, in rare cases, if a team's already down to only 5 players and someone gets ejected, they have to bring back the last fouled out player. That player gets slapped with a technical foul, but the game keeps going. There's no quitting, just because bodies are low. Once ejected, players can't come back for celebrations or talk to refs after the game. They're fully out of action until it's over. This is different from players who just foul out. They can still stay on the bench. These rules keep things safe and stop ejected players from sparking more drama. Moments like Ron Artest charging into the stands in 2004 or Draymond Green getting ejected in 2016 are exactly why the league's so strict. It's all about keeping the game under control and avoiding total chaos when tempers flare. Bleeding player. Anytime there's blood, the NBA stops the game right away. If a player's got a cut or blood showing on them or their uniform, the refs stop play at the first good moment and give the medical staff up to 30 seconds to treat it. If the bleeding is not under control by then, the coach has 2 choices: use a timeout or swap in a substitute. If they choose the sub, the other team gets to make 1 substitution too. Now, if the same wound opens up again later and it's not from new contact, the team does not get another 30 seconds. The player either gets treated within the normal time or has to sit. Before the player checks back in, refs make sure the wound is properly covered with a real dressing. Wristbands or sweatbands do not count. They've got to use actual medical bandages to keep the game clean and safe. If the bleeding player is supposed to shoot free throws or jump for a tip, they still get that same 30-second treatment window. But if they're not ready, play moves on and the game pauses again at the next right moment. Timeouts are not automatic here. Teams only get a timeout if they call it. If the team has no timeouts left, the refs still give them 30 seconds. But if the player's not treated in time, they've got to leave the game right away. In that case, only the bleeding player can be subbed out, and the opposing team can make one swap too. For possessions, the offense still gets the full 8 seconds to cross half court, and the shot clock stays the same or bumps to 14 seconds, whichever is better. Safety first, but the game keeps rolling. 24-second shot clock. Back in the early days, teams would stall for minutes, passing endlessly and killing the excitement. The most infamous case came in 1950, when the Fort Wayne Pistons beat the Minneapolis Lakers 19-18 in a painful slugfest. The Pistons barely shot, just holding the ball to keep it away from Lakers legend George Mikan. Fans hated it. The league looked terrible, and something had to change. That's when Syracuse Nationals owner Danny Biasone and team executive Leo Ferris stepped in. They did some napkin math at a bowling alley and cracked the code. Biasone figured if each team took around 60 shots, games would flow better. Divide 48 minutes by 120 shots, and boom, you get 24 seconds. That's how the 24-second shot clock was born. The NBA adopted it for the 1954 season, and it worked like magic. Scoring exploded, games sped up, and fans came flooding back. The shot clock saved pro basketball, plain and simple. FIBA picked it up too, first using 30 seconds in 1956, then switching to 24 in 2000. The WNBA started with 30, but moved to 24 in 2006. College hoops uses 30 seconds now, and even high schools in some states follow suit with 35 seconds. As technology evolved, the shot clock got upgrades too, from basic black boxes to fancy transparent displays, and even synced systems with the game clock, thanks to Tissot. It's more than just a timer, it's the heartbeat of the game. Today, whether it's the NBA, college, or high school, the shot clock keeps offenses moving and defenses hustling. Without it, basketball just isn't the same. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.